going on, guys? So today I wanted to talk about how important it is to know DJ gear. Now, I know a lot, if not most DJs out there can't afford, especially if you're a beginner DJ, can't afford the industry standard setup you'd see in most clubs, bars, lounges, etc. Now you'll see a lot of CDJs with a Pioneer mixer in the middle, full Pioneer setup, right? That stuff's expensive, trust me. I don't even have a full Pioneer setup at home. It's dumb expensive. That's like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for the club standard gear you'd see. The thing that I have an issue with, I shouldn't even say an issue with, the thing that I want to let especially beginner DJs, even intermediate DJs know is that if you respect the craft, especially if you respect the other DJs playing that gig, right? Know the gear that you're going to be playing on. I mean, if you get a gig, you get booked for somewhere, it's not really that hard to just send a few messages out, email, look at social media and find out what kind of gear that venue has. Then take an hour or two out of your day before the gig sometime and learn how to use that gear. Now, especially with the rise of DJ controllers and a lot of beginner DJs starting with like the smaller, more budget beginner controllers, it's really easy just to kind of, let me just set up my controller real quick and plug that in and do my set on that because I'm used to that. That's fine and all, but especially if you're using Serato, if you know how to use even the cheapest controller, the cheapest Pioneer controller, that translates 100% to an industry standard CDJ setup. I guarantee you that. The platters work the same, the hot cues work the same, the mixer works the same. The effects, depending on the mixer, might be a little bit different, but you can still use the filter, you can still use all your EQs, faders, you can still DJ and mix on an industry standard setup if all you have is a beginner controller at home. Now, the one thing that I will say, and this is something that I've ran into, is that if you're plugging into something like the DJM 900 Nexus 2, the club standard 4-channel mixer, you pretty much see everywhere, like pretty much all the boiler room sets you can find online, a majority of bigger venues, that if you're using Serato, you have to have club kit. Now, I know as a DJ, especially just starting out, you don't want to spend the however much money it is for club kit. I think it's like $200 or something around there for the lifetime license. But if you're just starting out, there's a reason why club kit has a monthly subscription, right? It's only literally, it would cost you 2 coffees from Starbucks to get a monthly subscription to be able to plug into that industry standard DJM mixer and get busy on that instead of having to bring your controller. And I'm a firm believer in investing in yourself, investing in your craft, and investing in DJing if you want to take it seriously. Now say, you're not gonna be playing on that all the time, but you have a gig that you have the opportunity to play on that. Spend the $10 or whatever it is to get that club kit license for the month and play on that stuff. It's really not that much trouble money-wise comparison to, maybe not eat out one day out of the week, don't get McDonald's or whatever. But more so than that, I get you're comfortable on that smaller controller if that's what you're bringing to the gig and that's what you play on. But if they have that full setup, it's so much more trouble to bring your controller, have to run RCA cables in the middle of a DJ set, or someone else is playing and you have to plug in and You have to sound check and make sure everything's working right. There's so many more things that can go wrong having to plug in another piece of gear in the middle of an event. Now, say you can't afford the club kit, even the subscription. You're just wanting to play on the smaller controller because that's what you're used to. If that's the case and that's what you want to do, don't show up to the gig. Don't show up to the event after doors open. Even if you're opening, don't show up like 10, 15, 20 minutes before doors open. Show up an hour before, show up 2 hours before. Get all of the cables that you need plugged in before all the other DJs, if there are other DJs playing. Have all of that set up and have your controller set up to the side and get all of that stuff ready before people start coming into the venue. It's so much harder to get set up when the lights are off, and the party's going, to get all of the cabling and all that stuff and making room. Not only is it more trouble, but it's disrespectful to the other DJs that are playing. Now, I know a lot of DJs won't tell you this, but just think about how intrusive it is if, say, I'm the other DJ and I'm playing my set and I'm really getting into it, and all of a sudden I have to break away from what I'm doing and selecting the songs that I'm gonna play, and I have to get tapped on the shoulder by another DJ and like, hey man, can I just plug in these RCAs real quick? And they have to struggle behind the mixer and get all of that stuff settled in. What happens if they unplug the wrong RCA cable? What happens? There's so many what ifs that could happen. And granted, a lot of times it doesn't happen, but I've been there when it does, and it's not good. It takes away from the event. It takes away from the flow of the night. And most importantly, it takes away from the flow state of the DJ that's already playing. So if you're gonna bring a controller, be sure to be there at least 30 to 45 minutes at minimum before doors open, and make sure you're all ready to go and all set up. Even say the event starts at 10 p.m., but your set's not till midnight. Don't show up at 11:30, right? Because there's already a crowd there, there's already people partying, there's already a DJ playing. Show up before the event starts and get set up just to show that you respect the party that booked you, that you respect the other DJs that are there, and most importantly, just to make the night smoother and less of a headache for you as a DJ that's playing on a smaller controller. And another giant pet peeve for me is if you're using a controller and there's a club standard setup, don't put your controller on the club standard gear. Again, do not put your controller on that gear. For one, if you're putting it on a CDJ platter, that extra weight, especially if you're putting your hands on it and on your controller and putting weight on it, that can damage the gear underneath your controller. I've seen it happen. It's expensive to fix, and a lot of times venues won't even fix it. And every DJ after you, if you damage that controller, has to deal with that. Just make the space, or get there early enough to make arrangements to make space for your controller setup in your laptop. If you make the decision to bring a controller instead of just using the club standard setup, keep these things in mind. And then also think about how much easier it would be if you just decided to learn how to use the club standard setup. And the thing at the end of the tunnel is that eventually, if you're taking this DJing seriously, you're gonna have to learn that anyway. So why not just learn it as early as possible? Now, for the people, all the DJs out there that say, oh, I can't, I want to have the best set possible. I'm not comfortable on that. There's a lot of places out there, especially in bigger cities, where you can rent out gear for a day. You can rent out gear for an hour, get a rehearsal room or something like that. Most guitar centers, if you live in the US, have this available to you. You can go to a guitar center, get what's called a rehearsal room, and get the club standard DJ gear. They'll put it in the room for you. They'll plug everything in, make sure you're good to go and all set up, and you can just pay by the hour and get everything rocking and, you know, make sure that you're set up for whatever event you have. And you can't tell me that some DJs aren't willing, or that DJs aren't willing to do this and go to that extreme, because I've seen it. I've seen DJs take the time and take this seriously to prepare and invest in themselves to go ahead and book that room, get used to that gear, because they know they have to play on it a week from now, 2 weeks from now, and they want to be sure that they're good to go. So if you're taking this DJ thing seriously and you want this to be a career, you want to be taken seriously, you want to get to that next level, get used to whatever the club standard is. And this is coming from someone that started on turntables. So as things progressed from turntables not being available at venues anymore, I wasn't used to playing on CDJs when I first started. But you know what? I made sure that I took the time and I respected the party, the booker who booked me to play at their party, and I respected the venue enough to learn how to play on that, because I wanted this. I wanted to be able to do this full time. I wanted to be a bigger DJ and play bigger spots and bigger events than where I was in the past. And I promise you, taking the couple hours and however much money it's going to take to get yourself used to that gear, it'll pay off in dividends if you really take the time to do it and save the money to invest in yourself and in your craft, and you'll just be a better DJ overall. Sorry, there's a little ranty, but it's something serious. It's something that I care about, especially because I was a sound tech for some venues, and I've seen people come in with controllers and just not be prepared and having to interrupt the night. And I've had the sound go out because cables were plugged in incorrectly. I've had DJs not be able to play because, you know, their controller died and they didn't know how to play on whatever gear was available and miss their set, and then be upset, not at themselves, but at the party, the booker, the venue, for something that could be avoided if they just took the time to invest in themselves. All right, that's it for me today, y'all.